Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. I can't see anything yet. So, let's mute. Okay, we can drop this down a little bit. Whoa, hello, Bob Ross. I am kind of at a place where I'm in lag with the live video, so getting the deck centered is going to be a little hard. Also, I'm going to stick something up here so that I know that this is the top. So ignore that pen. That's going to give me some guidance. I feel like it's a little wonky. Maybe that's better. I also need to plug this in. It's going to bounce a little bit, so look away if you get nauseous. Okay, so and my nails are wretched. I am viciously cleaning and purging my apartment, as I explained in the live chat. And so I am not going to stop and paint my nails because they're just going to get destroyed. So this is for Alchemy's Arrow, who wanted to take a look at this, wretched nails and all. This is a deck that, again, I saw that Barnes and Nobles was doing curbside pickup, and they had this deck, and so I picked it up. I haven't seen many of the images. I look at trees as having, not all trees having extra spirit. So all trees have energy and life to me, and I work with trees. I don't know that I would say that all trees have a dryad or a spirit or something that is kind of bonded with that tree either. I wouldn't say that they all have that. But I do love the concepts of dryads and spirits of trees. I don't necessarily think of them as angels, but from what I looked at the beginning of the guidebook, they're really looking at the different ways of expressing that, not just through just angelic things. So we're going to take a look at this. This is a deck by Earth Dancer is the company. I've never heard of that before. It says there are two types of angels, those with wings and those with leaves. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at. So let's take off the box. And here we have the book, which we'll look at here. And here I do love the backing. You could definitely trim this if you wanted to. Although I don't, because I don't necessarily think you need to have the numbers, but you could trim it. We'll talk about that later. Let's stick that there. And sorry for the pen, folks, because we are trying to keep this where you can see it. So the book says its book is dedicated to all trees whom time has visited into the tree of life untouched and eternal. Again, this is the creator of the deck is Fred Hagenader, and it's illustrated by Anne Henge or Heng. Not sure. This was originally published in 2006, and it has just been republished, second revised edition, so something's changed, in 2020, again by Earth Dancer. It looks like it was not originally English because it says the English translation in 2006. So it looks like this would have probably been German, is my guess. Originally published in German as Das Baumengel Oracle. Slaughter. In deepest gratitude to the trees in the Garden of Eden. So we have a nice little listing here. The trees are not alphabetical. They are numbered. So I guess you would want to keep those numbers on there. And there are 35 cards and 35 trees. he talks a bit about why he hasn't done one up until the point in which he did that, because he hadn't really seen them. He knew they existed. He didn't want to try to paint them until he knew, could see them better. So we have sort of that going on. He also goes in and talks about the wildwood of the soul. Now, this part I did skim because I wanted to see what was his concept of tree energy or tree spirit. Can you guys hear me? I hope you guys, I'm just going to pause for a minute because I can't remember if I okay. I can't remember if I accepted sound or not, but I think that's Zoom that makes me do that. I'm so sorry. I got out of, apparently there's a tiny crackle. Okay. I don't know. I'm just going to keep going forward. So I really like this idea of going to the wildwood of the soul. It talks about how there's so many different cultures with the idea of spirits and things that are in union with the, I don't know how to fix any crackling. Is it to the degree in which I should just stop doing this, or is it manageable? I just don't think there's any settings that I can change here. I'm going to pause for a minute to see. It's not on the microphone, it's on my phone. So I don't really have any way to, that's the only way I can do this live this way. So it's kind of this or nothing. That's kind of where we're at here. This or nothing. Because I'm just going to keep moving. A couple people are saying just go through. Yeah, if it's too annoying, I completely understand, and you can just bow out, right? So it talks about the Garden of Eden, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, the world's tree, and the understanding, which is more how I see the trees is the tree of life, and with sort of fae and spirit attached to different trees and things of that nature, more so than angels. Although I do think that angels are spirits, just like anything else is, so it works. I just associate angels more with feathers than trees. That's a personal thing. The tree of knowledge, it is a custodian. So it talks about there's different ways. The tree of life gives birth to the children of creation and nourishes and heals them. You'll see this in Egyptian, talks about Egyptian with lore here, as well as Persians. It talks about the tree of knowledge being the custodian who grants insight. So one is nourishing and healing, one is granting insights. Shamanic cultures make particular use of these qualities. Talks about the different myths there. And then, of course, the world tree. And there's many different cultures that have world tree understandings. But the world tree is sort of that primordial fabric of the universe, as it says. So different ways of approaching it. He goes into more information about those. So I really love that he goes into the fact that there's many different cultures that have this understanding of trees with life, not just life because they are living plants, but actually having spirit and those things in there, which I quite like. Yes, I agree, Miss Nikki. I feel like it's not just a kind of glossing over. It's a small guidebook, but I do feel like he's leaning into this. Talks about the hierarchy of nature spirits, tiny elemental beings. Talks about, just really goes into the ways in which you can just work with trees, the different ways in which people associate with trees, such as Buddha being underneath the tree. Obviously, we have Odin on the tree. We have Jesus hung on a tree as well. So lots and lots of mythologies and spiritual practices and belief systems have this concept of trees and the connection with tree. And it is, like Chris said, it is very central to my ideology and my worldview. So really important for me. And so I was excited to see that. Goes into the tree angel Oracle does talk about how a lot of the trees were trees that were taken from OMs. Sadly, also added, not sadly, but they did apologize somewhere I saw. Let me see if I can see. The selection, how he selected it. Oh, here it says, I therefore asked for the forgiveness of several of the OM plants, the reed, the gorse, the heather. Oh my goodness, Isabel. She's snoring so loudly. I asked forgiveness of several of the OM plants, the reed, the gorse, the heather, and offered their places to others, because there are other trees that are now here that weren't in not as important then, but they're important now. So there is some talks about that, but a lot of them are the ones associated with OMs. Let's see. So then it kind of goes into that basic how to choose your cards, the text that's there, using it for tree of the day, silent guardians. I did like this idea of energetic gateways between pairs of trees, because I definitely agree with that. And so I like the idea of pulling two gateway guardians, and in doing a reading that way. I think that's really fantastic. And then the doorway, and I also like that. I really like oracle decks that give you spreads that are very specific to their topic versus just some random, here's a past, present, and future. Okay, we all know how to do a past, present, and future reading. So I like when they tailor it to the concepts behind the deck. So I like these ideas here. Also has a medicine wheel to be a little bit more directional. And then it goes into the cards itself. You have a write-up on this side. So with the number, the name, the write-up, and then a small black and white image. And then an oracle in the form of kind of a poem. And what I like here is, I think it's interesting that they start with 0, much like you have tarot. So I'm going to go ahead and read Birch, because it makes sense. Birch is generally seen as a beginning tree, that first step. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to have to set this, and then pause it for a minute to make sure that it's centered, because I'm a little bit behind. There's a little bit of a lag between what I see. So I think that might be centered. I'm going to hold for it to catch up, and then I'll pull this pen away from annoying people. I think that's as good as we're going to get. Okay. So I'm going to read you Birch so you get an idea of what you get in the guidebook. We have the number, and that is important because it's not alphabetized in the book. And then, of course, we have the name of the tree, which is down here. And then we have the beautiful image. One of the things that I did notice when looking through this deck is that there were masculine and feminine. That was another thing I was really thrilled with. And then some that were, I would say would be kind of neutral. So here we have Birch. The birch is life's ancient yet eternally youthful nursemaid. Her spirit is a spark of the ancient mother who gives birth to creation. She brings light to the landscape and into the human heart. She comforts us with her graceful youth because she reminds us of the eternal regenerative power of nature. When the time comes, everything is transformed. It is never too late to begin again. This is her message. Birch's presence helps us to let go of the past, purify ourselves, and start afresh with an open heart and open arms. Don't cling on to the outmoded ideas, excuse me, feelings of guilt or constriction. Free yourself from the expectations of others and those you place on yourself. You are so much more than the limited picture you have of yourself. Hide nothing, be fearless, accept and flow with the changes. Sway in the breeze, bathe in the light, and create yourself anew. Without the presence of Birch, we become numb and stiff. We are paralyzed by the patterns of the past, fearing change. If the situation becomes chronic, things deteriorate and become toxic. Mentally, we become stubborn and dogmatic, and physically, we develop illnesses such as rheumatism. And then the little poem that's there is You stand naked before God, newborn, innocent. Delve deep within, empty yourself. Now open your eyes and see. Follow your heart and take your first step into a new world. So that is what we have here for Birch. I think it's really beautiful. I don't know how well you can see these, but you can see she's moving with the wind. She is very youthful there. It is really quite a lovely image. You can see her legs down into the trunk of the tree. It's just gorgeous. I feel like you could almost scry in this type of artwork in the leaves of the tree a bit, but it is really pretty. So there we have that. Next we have ash, which I think is really powerful. Again, you have masculine characters or people or tree spirits, and you also have feminine ones, and then you have some that I feel like exist sort of between the two, which I think are really beautiful. But we don't often see a lot of male figures in spirits and things like that, and so I really appreciate that in a deck. So I'm going to kind of make two piles so we can get a feel. Is there some more balance in here that we haven't been seeing for a very long time? But here we have ash. Let me, how can we do this? Let me, So ash is here to summon us to achieve mastery of things. I like the geometric shape that is in here, which does have that sense of mastery and creation and education and practice that this has on here. Ooh, look at walnut. Walnut is one of Earth's ancient mothers because of the nourishment that it provides. I'm going to tilt these up. If this is annoying, let me know, unless you're just going to be crabby about it. But if you find this annoying because it's hard to see, then let me. I just want you to be able to see the images really well. I love that you can see again, we have the sacred geometry there. And I love the walnut. You can see the inner part of the walnut there, kind of providing that energy there. I love the wide hips that are here going into the tree, and this idea of nourishment through the fruit, and the spiritual gift is wisdom. Ooh, look at the alder tree here. I was going to try to make piles, but we might have to do that later. So alder is the nourishing breast of Mother Nature, talking about the flowers, the dark wealth of dark berries in here. You can see her, look at how it's just really beautifully done. The artwork is gorgeous. Again, I feel like you could actually scry in some of these images. Visual display of fertility and growth is proof for us all that the elder embodies abundance. Really gorgeous. Here we have holly. I love the way that his hands are positioned here. Holly's horns also spur us on and wake us up. Just as distinctive as its leaves are clearly defined, with holly the mist suddenly clears, enabling us to see all kinds of things with clarity and good judgment. You get a sense of clarity with the way that his hands are, everything just sort of lines up, and you get that sharp light of clarity. That certainly what they're saying, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that what's being said in the guidebook, I feel like is you can see that happening in the image itself as well, which I do love that. Ooh, look at Rowan. I have not seen all these, so we're kind of looking at these together. It says, if we open ourselves up fully to the Rowan tree's energetic field, inspiration will strike like a bolt of lightning. Willing tools of creation, joyous river of being. And it's all really focusing on this idea of inspiration. Um, Really beautiful. I love the colors here. I love the motions in the hair here. I like that we have a dual spirit, which I think is really beautiful. Um, yeah, it's really beautiful artwork. Here we have another twin of Hawthorne, which I think is gorgeous. This is representing unity. All opposites are reconciled, and the essence that we call masculine and feminine find their nemesis in the deepest kind of mystical union and ecstasy. We can see this embodied in the flower of the hawthorn, which possesses both male and female organs, a powerful symbol of a powerful symbol traditionally used in spring marriage celebrations. So that is really gorgeous that the plant shows the unity of masculine and feminine. And so then, of course, we see that in the artwork as well. Ooh, look at oak. Very green man, very lord of the woods here. Oak is very strong, very powerful for me, especially, and typically is a very masculine energy for me. And I don't mean male as in gender, but masculine. That is really powerful. He really blends in there, but you see his hand almost beckoning you to his power. It really does talk about power in this particular write-up. It associates it with Mars, but definitely energy and power. And you certainly feel that, I think, in this particular image. Aspen has a very trickstery energy here. It looks to me, but also almost like a uh, uh, Asian or Oriental. I'm not sure. I think Oriental is not really the appropriate word, but I think it has a almost trickstery vibe to it, but also almost a samurai feel to it. Let's see what it says. Aspen is a spiritual warrior. Its medicine makes our enemies tremble, but not out of fear, but out of laughter. So this is Joker energy a bit, using humor. Flexibility of Aspen, it talks about. You could say that given so much Buddhist non-attachment, we are probably close to enlightenment with this card. Though the idea that one person could be more enlightened than another is so ridiculous that we won't even pursue it. So on and so forth. So it has a very trickster energy to it. I guess I don't think of Aspen as trickstery, but there may be a way in which it does. It says that because the aspen rubs shoulders with the god of the wind even more than the white and black popular. Okay, that's interesting. I do like that. I mean, there is highly trickster energy about gods and goddesses, certainly about fae, certainly about spirits of any kind. So I do like that there's a trickster energy in the deck. That feel of coyote, that feel of we're going to learn something. But if you're going to rub shoulders with the winds of the gods, you are going to have a sense of humor, which is something I completely agree with. I love Hazel here. For thousands of years, the hazel has been among our favorite trees because hazels are delicious. People are not really so different from squirrels, skipping from one dessert to the next, and the hazelnut nourishes us all. There's carefreeness to this, spontaneity, playfulness, the inner child. We see more like small fae. This is much more like fairy or fae creatures with kind of embodying the energy. I think it's beautiful. I feel like we're getting a nice I think we're getting a nice a variety of spirit tree spirits in this deck, and the willow is gorgeous. I did see that, and we have not gotten to it yet, so I quite like that. It's got a very playful. I love the bright yellows and the bright kind of sappy greens here that I think are quite sweet. Ooh, look at that! It's got a very shamanic feel to Juniper. Juniper wears a serious expression, yet one that is also seriously beautiful. Juniper has all the attentiveness and powers of observation of the spiritual warrior, which you can really get that sense with the star there. Even over the head. The wind tugs at its leaves, the feather whirls past, and Juniper looks into the distance and sees everything. Oh, I love that. I'm liking the guidebook a lot. I do quite like the language. Whoever translated, it doesn't feel like a translation. They did a really good job. I mean, obviously, I don't know if they translated it well from the German, but it feels very, it flows really beautifully. Oh, I love linden flowers. The linden tree, or lime, is connected with one of the human soul's most important sources of power, the universal desire to find equilibrium, to find true harmony through which all forms of life can thrive. You really see that sort of finding your, with this line. I will say with this deck so far, the judicious use of geometric shapes or lines, really in just one swoop of a line, in the way that her feet are postured like a ballerina, you really do get that sense of balance and harmony and finding equilibrium, right? Without having the keywords on here, I feel that you can really see that energy of finding balance in this, in the painting. So I think really beautiful expressions here. Really gorgeous. Ooh, look at Blackthorne. I love the magic swoop here and that little tiny flower. Blackthorne is a guardian, which is so true. A keeper of the shadows and the holder of the darkest secrets, and now it is calling you. It is time to take heart and walk toward the black door. The angel of Blackthorne, or spirit, if you see him as spirits like me, will give you the strength that you need to enter the shadow world. I really love this. It says that in the past few centuries, Blackthorne has been confused with demonic forces. I certainly I do not think of Blackthorne as having anything to do with demonic forces, but that's me. It is Blackthorne that holds these forces at bay. Only a completely pure being could stand beside the dungeon's gate without being harmed. So quite powerful. I'm really loving them. Ooh, look at you. Now, of course, yew is a very important tree. The oldest of the Norns, Destiny's loom, the yew lives at the source, at the firstborn root of the tree of eternity, or the tree of life. It's a very important, powerful tree. And look at how timeless she is. I love that we're getting different different ages, right? We're not having all just young, beautiful. We're getting little tiny children-y energy, but as well as youthful, beautiful, young, and as well as crone, old energy. We're getting men, and we're getting masculine and feminine, I should say. It's really beautiful. This is just gorgeous. Sorry as I stare at this card, but it's really beautiful. I'm loving it. Here is the field maple. Grows modestly in the landscape and while going about its work quietly. See, I love that this one is sitting on the ground. It's got her hand, she's working with the land. She's putting energy in. Yeah, it's definitely glossy cardstock. But for me in this one, wouldn't stop me from using it. I love that this is just in motion. It's doing something. It's working. I almost feel like there's runes or something at her waist. Oops, I don't think I'm showing it very well, but it looks like there's runes or something there. But about management, about doing the work. It's just that getting in there. Some of them, they're not just sitting there all esoteric and floating in the sky. Let's get down and do the work that needs to be done. She looks like somebody who's a hard worker, and I quite I quite like that. It doesn't say anything about runes, but it kind of looks like it. Again, I feel like there's some scrying work that could be done in this. I know I've said that like 3 times, but this is the first time I'm looking at it, so these are my feelings about it. Here we have a very fey looking elm. Again, we've got some masculine energy. Look at all up here. I just noticed that. Look at all in these little like bubbles here of light. There are different energies up here as well. Let's see what it says. Communication and exchange. Well, that makes sense. In the morphogenetic field of the elm, the Greek hero Orpheus plays his lyre for the animals. In the past, memorial services for the dead were often held beneath its leaves, and people, mystics, nature spirits, and their emissaries would all meet in its presence. That's really interesting, huh? Because it's about communication. It's about meeting together, both for communication, but also for getting ushering somebody out into the next realm, and to have all these different spirits and people and energies coming and meeting under the leaves of the elm tree, I think is really powerful. Ooh, I love this one. I just love when people have their like chests open, arms wide. It's one of my favorite postures. This is black poplar. It is as if a fresh breeze is blowing through your life. You are able to act with speed and flexibility, both mentally and physically. This is not the time to hesitate, but to move. There's movement, there's openness here. Really lovely. The color palette's obviously very green, which we would expect, but also greens and yellows. And the way that the yellows are used, I think, are really expressive in this deck. That's kind of standing out for me, but that is really beautiful. Here we have larch. I don't know that I've heard of a larch tree. Is there a different maybe name for it? Let's take a look. We see dancing, you know, they're about to dance into time. I'm hearing the song from the Outlander. Larch is an extraordinary being. It combines great strength with magical grace and beauty. Larch brings light like a star fallen from heaven. Its gift to you is spiritual clarity, inspiration, and harmony with the laws of nature. Fairies, charming elfin beings that are well disposed towards humans and animals. Okay, let's pause for a minute, because no. Fairies are not, the definition of fairies are not charming elfin beings that are well disposed towards humans and animals. That's a very squished and minimal definition of what fairy or fae energy is. So I disagree with that. However, there are the concept of the white lady and things of that nature are very much in a lot of fae lore, dressed from head to toe in silver and white, dancing under the ancient trees and mountains. It's an unforgettable experience. And I would certainly agree with the unforgettable experience. And yes, I do agree. I think the facial expressions are really quite beautiful. So I'm going to have to look up more about larch. I don't think I've ever worked with that tree. Somebody has said not in America. It's a British tree. I'm going to have to look it up. Ooh, see here. Look at Miss Nikki. Look at white willow. Willow is my tree. Oak is very much my tree as well. When I grew up, I lived in trees. Not literally, but almost literally. Like I was always up in a tree or under the branches of a tree. And it was an oak tree, was one that I was a big old branch that I just literally spent hours in. And then there was a willow tree that I spent hours under. And so those two are sort of my trees. And she is stunning. The white willow belongs to the moon and feminine magic, insight, the healing arts, music, magic, all together beneath this tree. Witches may dance beneath its crown, but the willow invites all humans to join the dance of life, joyfully. So I really do feel like sometimes when decks are called like angel decks, you feel like they're going to be really focused on a Christian ideology. This deck does not seem to be that way. It really is expressing all different mythologies from different cultures, from different belief systems, and just sort of understanding that these tree spirits or beings or whatever you might call them exist, and we just call them different things based on our worldview, and it's a meeting point for all of those expressions. So I quite love that about the guidebook. But she is stunning. Love it. It looks, obviously, she's holding the moon, and you can see the reflection of the moon here as well, which is really stunning. Ah, loving this. This is one, usually I've seen a lot of the cards before I ever purchase anything, and this is so not very often do I just get to enjoy an unboxing and see the cards really all for the first time. So I'm quite enjoying it. Here we have the Scots Pine. He kind of looks like a Scotsman, doesn't he? He looks like he could have a kilt on underneath all those leaves there. Pine as a pioneer and fulfills its role in life with great versatility. It spreads out steadfast branches everywhere, from the cold of Siberia into the heart of the southern climates, in semi-desert or on mountain slopes, and even in the salty air of the coast. The pine is a social tree. Viking chieftains and the mighty warriors of ancient Scotland would not go to war or allow themselves to be buried without the presence of the pine angel. The pine itself is a warrior, the greatest of them all. It is bursting with purpose and perseverance, and when the time comes, can be as patient or as an angel or as decisive as a sword. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, let's see. Scots Pine. Oh, I'm gonna put that over here. Making a pile. Making piles. Making piles. Here we have apple, which is lovely. Although I'm American, so I'm thinking of like Johnny Appleseed as an American myth. Of course, it could have been brought from somewhere for all I know. But I do love her. It just looks like this, again, the use of yellow. I think that painting has taught me to love yellow, but I'm still like, yellow is not a color that I really, I don't work a lot with yellow. Like I don't have often predominantly yellow tones. And yet this deck, ooh, that's pretty cool. That's very Father Wintry. Sorry, skipping ahead. I do really like the use of yellow in this deck. There is a glow to it that I think is gorgeous. This is about joy. This is about health. This is about, I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk with my hand. I'm doing this. The apple synchronizes perfectly with the orchestral light of the sun. It also appears in the legends of King Arthur as the guardian tree of Avalon, the Isle of Eternal Youth, which is awesome. So I quite like this. Again, I feel like there's a lot of different myths and different cultures that are brought into the guidebook, which I enjoy. So there we go. Yeah, I'm definitely not one who vibes a lot with bright yellows. One of the things I don't really like about the original Rider-Waite-Smith, but I do. I'm liking it in this deck. Here we have Spruce, very Nordic, northern, very sharp and masculine. We often see masculine geometric shapes there that I think is gorgeous. Here, let's see. Viewed directly from above, the star-shaped pattern made by the branches of the spruce resembles a snowflake. So yeah, very winter, Father Winter, or some kind of wintry, northern cold winter. How many times can I say winter? I like the sharpness of this. It's different than we see in the other ones, and the blueness, and I like the pine cone between the hands. So I quite like that. the sense of clarity, a sense of energy. It says, according to the old myths and legends, if a mountain troll felt like rampaging through a forest, it was bound to be fir and spruce trees that were being thrown around. No other trees were a challenge to the troll. Indeed, only the forces of nature itself were capable of felling these giants of the mountain. I love that. I love that right up. Here we have ivy. Sorry, I'm trying to navigate the book too because I'm enjoying what they're saying here. Ivy is the only tree in the oracle that has relinquished its ability to grow vertically, its backbone, so to speak. This allows ivy to weave in and out, to climb and to crawl and to wind around things. It succeeds in places where others cannot. It protects other trees. It covers ugly ruins, not runes. And catches the tree light that leaves that some trees won't. Anyways, it goes on and on here. It allows you to take part in its unparalleled willingness to serve the earth. Selflessness, humility, loyalty, and modesty are Ivy's gifts. Sam Gamgee, Frodo's faithful friend in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, is a brilliant example of this principle: absolute loyalty and devotion without any thought of reward. Love it. Sure, let's talk about Lord of the Rings and Samwise, who is the most amazing of all the peoples. Okay, not the peoples, the hobbits. Here we have Olive. Kind of has a cool, different vibe to look at all of the olives just falling onto, I think this might be, I don't know if that's a her. It's a her here, but falling and just rolling down between her legs and onto the ground. There is a wonderful sense of abundance here. The olive brings abundance and riches in a way that no other tree can. And because of this, the olive also brings peace. So it is definitely associating with, obviously, with Greeks. In Athens, it talks about, brings up Noah's on as well. Was nearing the bitter end of his time. He sent out a dove for a scout, and of course the bird brings back an olive branch. So I really like, again, it's just connecting all the different stories and all of the different myths that make up our human mythological cycle that influences all of us no matter what cultures we're from. And I really do feel like this embodies abundance. Her arms being open like that, the fruit just rolling onto the ground, I think is really gorgeous. Yeah, I definitely agree, Nikki. I feel like the artist and the writer are definitely working together on this. It seems to be beautifully meshed together with the guidebook. This is gorgeous. This is the Almond. Divine love it's talking about. It's the mystic's tree. Its older Aramaic name means light, and in ancient Jewish tradition, the almond tree is also associated with the omnipresence of God. The botanical name, I'm not going to ruin it, hails from the Middle East and stems from the ancient Sumerian Amagah, meaning great mother. So this is about searching for the divine in life. Really beautiful. Really beautiful. Here we have Hornbeam, a very, love this gateway that's happening underneath here. I love the very strong stance of this spirit here. At times assessing, it's talking about great gateways, spiritual gateways, sacred places, temples, springs in the wood, in the woods, those types of things, all of the sacred groves and the sacred gateways. And the hornbeam is protecting the sacred grove. So I really feel like that stance is very protective. We see the trees on either side really all the way through this passageway. So there is a very strong guardian of passages feeling about this card, which is gorgeous. Here we have Beech Tree. Silver and green beech angel is the custodian of time's annals. So this is about time. I love the sort of sands of time between his hands there, which I think is really gorgeous. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's almost like he has got sands of time between his palms. Which I think is really beautiful. It stands for reliability, for responsibility, for honor. It's also the patron of writing, an art that serves to record and preserve. Magical alphabet, such as runes and oracles, and among others, are a little different and are influenced by Ash, Rowan, and of course the yew. But this is more of the historian kind of feeling to this particular card, which is powerful. Here we have the Cedar of Lebanon. The oak is the king of the forest, while the ash is the high king, according to an old German proverb that celebrates the power of the first and of the grace of the latter. Under southern skies, however, both of these aspects are of majesty are embodied in the cedar of Lebanon. No other tree is so magnificent. Even King Solomon valued its wood, incorporating it into his legendary temple in Jerusalem. So it is the king, it is the high king, it is that sense of power there with the cedar. And I definitely think this is reflected in this. I know. I agree with you on that. I love this horse chestnut. It's very fey looking. One of the ancient trees. It survived the last ice age in a valley hidden in the Balkans, where it remained since its countless large and heavy conkers never fall far from the tree. It was only in the 16th century that this beautiful tree was discovered, quotation marks, by a Flemish diplomat who was visiting Turkey. From that time onward, it spread far and wide across the world thanks to human intervention and the botanical gardens of Paris and London. Now, in many parts of the globe, children and adults play with its shiny red conkers, and not before time. The horse chestnut had to wait nearly 10,000 years for its fruit to be enjoyed and appreciated. So it has this concept of patience here, which is really beautiful. I do love him. He's a little like old man of the tree. He definitely makes me happy. Ooh, she's beautiful. Very Artemis-y vibe. Love the moons there. The sycamore's birthplace is in the mountains, but like many in the maple family, it has been planted in the lowlands all over the world due to its decorative value. The sycamore is always ready to boost our spiritual clarity. Connects the elements of air and earth, particularly stones. So putting ideas into practice becomes easy. Being calm and cool-headed, be astute, but without splitting hairs. And of course, that bow can show that idea of clarity there. Yeah, very Dianic, isn't it? It's really gorgeous. Plus, I mean, come on, she's beautiful redhead. I love... Oh, look at how wonderful Alder is. I love how Alder is, her trees and her skin are just kind of really more incorporated into the bark than some of them that we see. This about sustaining, let things be, perfection, a breeze. Angel heightens emotions and empathy, acceptance and forgiveness, comforts, it's calming and supports us in letting go of pain from the past and healing old scars. Her secret is in release and letting life flow. Just rely on the alder and listen to the splashing of the stream, letting go of everything that is causing you pain, sorrow, grief, rage, hate, bitter tears, surrender it to the earth and her helpers to be transformed into fruitfulness. That's really beautiful. Really beautiful. Here we have a very pan feel with the pear tree here. The fruits of the wild pear are small and tart. The different varieties of pears it's talking about in Russia and Greece. Homer describes a garden full of fragrant pears. The angel of Pear represents the Venus principle and its positive aspects in particular. It provides a sense of proportion, harmony, balance, aesthetics, art, good taste, good omen for partnership, relationships, eroticism, coming together. You know, you kind of have that feeling of pan, of fun, of sexuality, of you know, all balance in all things there, I guess. Very interesting. Um, okay, here we have is it a pipple? Pipple? There's another one, I guess I don't. Well, I know this as the Bodhi tree, which I guess maybe the pipple is another name for that. I always think of it as, or heard of it as, a Bodhi tree. This is, of course, the tree that Buddha sat under to become enlightened. And so that's beautiful. Definitely get that feeling of enlightenment here. The angel is an avatar who calls upon us to stop and meditate. This angel is a door to spiritual freedom, true inspiration, and wisdom. It even makes complete inner freedom, that is enlightenment, possible. So we have, yeah, a lot of different energies here, and it melds it really well. It doesn't feel like a mishmash, right? It feels like an honoring of all the different trees and different mythological lines and stories and things of that nature. Next to the yew in terms of age is this primeval tree. The Gingko species has existed for more than 270 million years. Some 7 million years ago, this tree was lost to America, and 2.5 million years ago, it died out in Europe, but it survived in China, where it has enjoyed well-deserved respect throughout Chinese history. Today, the ginkgo can be once more found in many parts of the world. The great power of the ginkgo tree has never revealed itself so clearly as after the devastating atom bomb in Hiroshima. The bomb claimed thousands of innocent lives and saturated many more people, animals, and plants with radiation. Incredibly, 4 ginkgo trees, 3 of which were in the grounds of temples, survived the explosion despite being near the center of the blast. The closest of them, just 3,707 feet from the epicenter, began to bloom again the following spring. That's crazy. Since this time in Japan, the ginkgo has become the bearer of hope. That's really beautiful. That's giving me goosebumps. That's gorgeous. Okay, here we have the cherry. I quite like this very beautiful energy of let's just eat all the cherries and all the fruits here. There's a ripeness here, both in her, the figure of the lovely lady here. She's not, there's not, you know, there's beautiful thin, there's a ripeness to her body type here that I think looks really well with this. Again, there's a lot of different ages, a lot of different, both genders. I do think it's quite, did a really good job of inclusiveness here. And it goes well. They all go well with that sense, with each of the tree. Like, it doesn't feel like it's forced. It's just what goes best with the tree. I quite like that. Talking about cherries, undermining self-confidence. For some 1,500 years ago, what is this talking about? For some 1,500 years, the ethos was drummed into our ancestors that they were either irredeemable sinners, or those of us in this era, unfortunately, who were raised in fundamental Christian religions, that they were either irredeemable sinners, or were the Catholic version, or were only worthy if they worked hard for something like the evangelical version, or if they turned their back on pleasure in the Puritanism. This had the effect of completely undermining understanding, self-confidence, a trait that has been passed down through the generations, but which must be healed if we want to be able to love our neighbors as ourselves. So I love that, the sense of loving ourselves unconditionally, being able to enjoy life, that being fulfilled isn't a horrible thing. Quite beautiful. Speaking of the rewards, the cherry highlights the sensual, a warm bath, eroticism, good food, a walk, visiting a close friend, and you can choose the order in which you do all of this. Be good to yourself, treat yourself to something. This is how we enjoy the cherry. Quite love it. Okay. And then the last card that we have is Myrrh. I quite love his hands and the way that the branches of the tree are in that position. It says in the physical world, myrrh is an unusual plant that only grows on the southern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, now Yemen and Oman, in the form of a small knotted and gnarled tree, but its presence is everywhere. If the trunk is wounded or scratched, a milky substance is released that immediately crystallizes into golden yellow lump. Myrrh can be burned as incense and has been used for centuries as an offering in rituals. That is really amazing. The dark, bitter scent of myrrh releases us from the everyday world and opens our higher senses to the spiritual realm. Myrrh helps deepen our contact with the unseen and increases our devotion to the divine. Really gorgeous. So there we have it. Let me, I like to make my piles. I missed a couple here at the beginning. Oops, sorry. So I think that one would go there. I think that's the only one I missed. Yeah. So actually, I'm quite happy to say these are quite balanced, with maybe one or two more that have masculine, male, I should say, figures on the cards. So it feels, and two of them, although most of these do feel like girls, and one of them had both masculine and feminine. So it's actually a beautifully balanced deck of masculine and feminine imagery. This is not something that we get very often in oracle decks, and so that is a huge plus. So we got trees, we got lots of different mythologies being really beautifully and respectfully, I believe, pulled into the guidebook. There is a really cohesiveness to all of the different things that are put up. It's not, you don't get a large amount of text, but I do feel like you get enough to lean into where, why they're choosing these particular things. Now, these I think are going to vary maybe a little bit from some of the OMs, although I didn't get any sense that there was something that really clashed with it. I'll have to go through it again for that. But because what I like though is that, remember that the OMs and the way that we often interpret the OMs have often to do with, tied in with Celtic ideology in that landscape, whereas this deck is really trying to pull from different mythologies and different story cycles. And so there's given reasons why that particular energy is being placed there, which I think based off of the stories and the different ways that the tree actually acts. So I think it does a really gorgeous job at landing there. But nothing stuck out at me as being strange, other than maybe there was one I thought that maybe did, not strange, but maybe not the way that I necessarily saw it. So I'll have to look a little bit closer and answer that question. But nothing really stood out like, oh, wow, I would read it differently. And the other thing is that because we just have the name of the tree on here, you can add your own understanding of the tree, of course, into your own reading. I do think that in terms, again, of gender, perfectly balanced. I do think we're getting different ages, which is very balanced there. Mostly this seems to be European centric or European You know, some, obviously most of them are green skin tones. So let's just say that we have obviously very green. This is a very green, although it has sort of a an Asian feel to it. But a lot of them do look what I would think of as more Nordic, Germanic. This is a German deck. But these are spirits. So some of them look more like, you know, people. This is Scots, would be a Scotsman. This is obviously much more spirit based versus actually including any gender or any kind of race. It's a blue creature. A lot of things are sprite like this, where you have that green. Again, they're green, they're not actual people. And so, but I would certainly say that it preponderantly has a European. Of course, we have some others thrown in there. And again, Fae creatures, but they're more of the European Fae type. So you don't see a lot of what I would say of ethnic diversity, although you see a little bit. There are some that look a little bit Native American. There are some, again, that are very neutral because they look Fae or they look like tree people. We do have some, obviously some Greek and things like that put in, but you're not really seeing a great diversity in race here other than tree creatures, so green creatures. Mostly European and green. That's what I'm seeing there. So, you know, maybe not perfection, but I'm a European Fae as well. So that kind of works well. Again, I think though, because we do see a lot that are trees people, or Fae creatures, but it's more European Fae, certainly, if that's something that you work with. If it matches the OM interpretation. Well, remember, we only have a very little to do with what the OM might be. I'll go through it. Elron, I really wasn't looking at it in that terms. I was looking at it just strictly in how the guidebook was interpreting it. But what I like is that I feel like you can, you know, this isn't an OM deck. So that the point of this deck was not to interpret the cards in the way that somebody might interpret the OM. It's using the different lore and the characteristics of the tree and how this particular person saw tree spirits as looking. And so that's fair. And he really does talk about the fact that of how he, OMs are, and I think that that's a very big misnomer, right? The OMs don't all mean tree things, number one. They are associated with trees, but you can also have lists of, you know, farm tools as OMs. And so, the purpose of him creating this was that he was waiting until he had actually seen what the tree spirits looked like to him. So what we're seeing is, and what he knows about trees and how he sees it. So obviously this is a German fellow, and so it's not too surprising. And he talks about how spirits and things like that shows themselves up in ways that make sense to us. And so these are showing up for him in the way that it makes sense to his vision of what they're going to look like. And that doesn't mean that the Willow isn't going to look like something entirely different to somebody else and how they might see that particular spirit. So yeah, I guess I wouldn't judge this based on whether or not I felt like the whether I felt like it interpreted well. I didn't feel like anything. Again, I'll have to look at it specifically that way, but I didn't see anything that particularly clashed where I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't use this deck because I would never see the tree that way. I would just take it as an opportunity to see that tree in a fresh way. Certainly the birch tree, which was the first one, is certainly how you would see birch in OMs as that sort of gateway. I think yew was being used quite well that way. So I feel like it's not going to be a hindrance for me. But again, I'm not going to approach this as an OM deck. The box is a nice, kind of a hard box with that bright yellow green, a dark green. It's a, nice, solid, good size. It just fits the deck and the cards in it. So yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with it. Now this cost, I don't know on Amazon. Again, I just saw this and ordered it because I could pick it up at Barnes and Nobles. So it costs $19.99 in the US. I, of course, always have 10% off at Barnes and Nobles. My guess is that it's going to be cheaper on Amazon, but it's pretty freshly out, so I wouldn't guess it's going to be a whole lot cheaper than that yet. But I'm really pleased with it. Would I have loved more cards? Sure, I would have loved more cards. I think I said there were 35 cards. 35 cards, so I would love to have more trees, but you know, I'm not going to be picky about these things. I'll take what I can get in a beautiful tree thing. Somebody asked, am I going to mod this? Oh, you know, I don't know. You certainly would not be hurting the back to mod it. You know, you could cut all around it and leave the bottom. Because all of the cards are right here, it would be pretty easy to still find the card, even though if you cut the number off, you certainly could still, I don't think it would be that hard to find the card there. I don't know. I'm not going to for right now. It feels like I think it would really pop. You could also cut everything off and write the name of the tree in with a pen that writes. It's very glossy, so you're going to have to be really careful about you know, what's going to stick on there well. So I really do feel like take the Celtic Tree Oracle, not the old one, but the beautiful new one, I think by Stacy DeMarco. That, you know, when you trim that down to the images, the greens and like everything really does pop out. So it would certainly pop the color to trim it down. And you could either trim inside of the black line or just to the outside of it, which would make it really easy to trim it. I'm not going to do it yet because I don't feel it strong need of it. I'm definitely going to edge it. It's a beautiful green backing. Hi, Jamie. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it. It's definitely glossy. That's the one downside. The cardstock is nothing horrible and nothing to, you know, wonderful. Let's riffle. Let me try to riffle it. I'm gonna pull this up a little bit. So look away if you get motion sick like me. I don't know if that even helped anything. I don't know if that even helped. I'm trying to give myself a little bit room to pull some cards. Jamie, I think you're heading home tomorrow. Yeah, it feels kind of like a troop, to be honest. It feels kind of like a Blue Angel deck. It shuffles really nice. Even though it's glossy, it doesn't feel sticky. You get a real nice, let me see if I can do it sideways. You get a really nice riffle on it that really melds the cards well. Oops, I can't do it that way. Sometimes I can get them to bridge sideways to show you a nice how they flex. But they, yeah, they shuffle really nice. I'm going to go away from there so I don't bang it. They're not clumping together overhand, which sometimes sticky gloss cards can clump together, and they're definitely not clumping together. So they feel actually really well. They feel good. So let's just pull two guardians. Here we have black poplar, and here we have birch, that new beginnings. I love just the energy of these two cards, just looking at them. Like, you feel like if this is your guardians to a path forward, it's a joyous path of new beginnings, right? Just the energy that he's wide open. There's a sense of movement. There is a sense of meeting the energy going forward. And that's the new energy of the birch tree, because of course birch has to do with new beginnings, or my understanding of birch is new beginnings. It's the first tree that comes back after a fire burning, burnout. You usually will see birch along the edges of forests. They're the kind of the first trees that you come into. And so I love this energy of sort of going to meet this new beginnings, right? You're head on moving towards this new opportunity that's going towards you. And so with these two cards sort of standing guardian to that path forward, it seems like a really powerful new beginnings to that. It kind of has a Fool energy between the two of them in some ways. So I think that's really beautiful. Let's see what the other one says about the, I'm trying to find it here. This spread places a guardian tree on either side of you, just like the position described in the silent guardian, but the primeval doorway has a remarkable function. It is the entrance into the other world, or underworld, sorry. As we know from the world's myths and legends, a journey into the underworld is not without danger. That is why the two guardians do not remain at the entrance, but become your guides, if you remember to invite them to do so. The third card represents the tree angel who is the guiding light for your journey, and who above all maintains contact with your two guards. That's pretty cool. So then you would have your two guardians. So I would pull my two guardians at the split. These are guardians that are going to walk with you. So they're not just standing on the entryway. We're going into the underworld, and these two guardians are going to come in, this focus and this clarity that's here, and the power of the Elder. So they're going to walk along with you. And then I would pull the third from the bottom of the deck, and the Alder are going to kind of be that connection between you and the guardians as you walk into the underworld. So that's a cool spread. I quite love that. So yeah, I'm quite happy with it. Again, I don't often buy decks. I don't often buy decks really almost entirely sight unseen. And so it was quite fun to just be able to see, all right, what's this about? I mean, it's a tree deck. I'm going to buy a tree deck and see what it's about. And so I'm pleasantly surprised with it, and definitely really looking forward to diving into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this here so that things kind of stay cohesive to the walkthrough. I know some people despise live walkthroughs of decks, but I do find them to be fun to do on occasion, and but I try to stay a little bit succinct with them. Alchemy's Arrow, have I shown? I think I only showed them the Miss of Avalon trimmed on my Instagram. If you want some other pictures of it, just let me know and I'm happy to do so. But there you go. So this has been a look at the Tree Angel Oracle deck, The Ancient Path into the Sacred Groves. This is a revised reprint of a 2006 deck. I don't know what was revised about it. If somebody's watching this, if somebody was watching this and knows like where some of those differences are, I would, put it in the comments. I'd love to know what might have been changed, but I'm glad that this has come back, that we have an opportunity, those of us who missed it in 2006 have an opportunity to get it in 2020. So, Alchemy's Arrow says that Tarot Map has a walkthrough of the first edition. I'll have to go take a look at it and see if it looks any different than this one then. So thank you for letting me know that. So take a look over there if you want to. Kasha does amazing walkthroughs to see what she has to say about them. And also then you'll be able to see the difference with the first edition. So Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm done talking between class for a few hours, then the live chat before, and then this chat. I am finished talking. So you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. And I will talk to you all later. Oh, I can't do it from the computer. So you're going to get nauseous. Sorry, I've got to pull my phone off because there's no other way for me to hang it up. So hang it up. So have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm gonna end it. Yes, end streaming.